Testing.
Now put it. Now don't touch it.
Well, I mean, I'm going to have to put it somewhere.
There we go. That's good. Yeah.
You don't want it facing you. You want it facing up.
Yeah. You want it facing up. Now don't touch it. Do not touch it.
Like that's the other problem. And I can't eat my celery and carrots.
All right. Let's just start. Are you ready?
This first one is going to be the best one.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this podcast. We don't know what it's going to be called.
No idea.
I'm Jason Ackerman.
Scott Scarano.
I honestly thought it was Scarano, so I'm glad I heard that out loud. How do you say your last name?
Have you ever watched the show on HBO?
What show? The Sopranos?
There you go. Scarano, Soprano.
Oh, so we both have accounting firms.
And we're both half Jewish.
No, I'm 100%.
Yes, but you still are half.
That's true. I'm two halves.
Take half of you. It's still Jewish, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Now we do both own and operate accounting firms.
Yeah, we bounce ideas off each other. Scott's a little more retarded than me, I would say, but he has good ideas, so I still listen to him. A big picture guy and good with trends, not a detailed guy. Don't know if I would trust you to do a tax return. Like, I don't know if I want you to do my tax return.
You shouldn't. You shouldn't, because I've fucked up my return.
Not a technical guy, but you have a good understanding of where the industry is going. That's what I like about you.
Okay. You are the steak, not the sizzle. Okay. When you are making a steak, and I mean, obviously you can smell it too. I don't know. That's not even part of the analogy. But when you hear somebody cooking a steak, you hear that sizzle. That is not the steak. That there's no substance. It's just how you described me. I am all sizzle. I could talk a long game because there's very low risk. But if it's something that I know that there's answers to out there, I try to stay away from it because I don't know much. Now that's the sizzle. The steak is actually food that you can eat. If you want real information, you get it from Ackerman. If you want theory, you get it from Scarano.
I think you have a little bit of say. It just like you need translating. That's my job on this podcast is you're going to say some weird shit and I'm going to translate it in normal English for people. I want to know what your overall theory of accounting is. What do you think is the most important thing? What's your North Star? I mean, I think the North Star for us is customer service. How can we do right by the customer?
Okay, so that's every industry in the world that deals with customers.
Yeah, that's not how most people think. Most people think they're in business to make money.
Are we talking about all businesses? Because our clients need to be focused on their clients and their customers. We're talking about a North Star of accounting, and
that's the North Star.
Customer is your North Star. I like that.
But not customer service. It doesn't mean doing what the customer wants you to do, because that might not be the right thing for the customer to do. So it's doing right by the customer.
By the customer. My North Star of accounting is business, entrepreneurial.
North Star in your business. Like when you make a decision,
I like this. Okay. To empower the person we're trying to help. So I do like the customer-centric idea. I think a lot more of it has to do now with the human connection and the communication. So giving them that transparency. That's my North Star, transparency in what we do. Why are we doing right by the client? Why do we even care? A lot of people don't care. A lot of firms do not care about the clients. They complain about their clients.
I think I complain about clients too. I think we all do. But it goes back like why I always think about customer service and giving the best experience to the customer. Like
maybe you're leaving it all out on the table and that's why you complain. Maybe you're too good at customer service that you're giving people that shouldn't deserve good customer service and wasting your time on them.
That definitely could be part of it. But
you're left empty.
When I look at the trend in tax returns is to go away from but go away from human contact. You know, you want people to drop off their stuff. It goes into a scanning software. It gets populated on the return. you have interns doing that, or maybe you have somebody in India or someplace, and you're not ever talking to the client and they're just getting the tax return at the end. Is that the best for the client?
That is best for the client if that's what the client, if that's all they care about, and they shouldn't be using one of our services to do that. If that's what it's about, it's like they should go to the gas station and buy water instead of going and trying to filter their own water and make it themselves. Terrible example, but they should not be using us to filter everything through for them.
But why do you think
That's all they care about?
So why do you think firms are going to this model of less contact?
Everybody's trying to automate everything. So it's mistaking what we do for manufacturing, maybe.
Do you think that tax returns can be automated?
Compliance is always going to be around. I think that, the ability for the tax return to do itself, still going to need people to translate that. You're not going to trust a computer just
So let's say
spitting something out.
hypothetically in this world that you can do that. So I think we're a long way off from there because,
I think that it's within 2-3 years.
Okay.
So jot that down. In 2 or 3 years from now, we'll double check on that one.
Well, I think that a basic tax return can be automated. If you just have a W-2, sure, that's going to be automated. But for the tax returns that have multiple K-1s, multiple businesses, I don't see that part being automated anytime soon.
But the reason it won't be automated is not because it's too complex. I don't think that's the case at all. I think
no, it's not that it's too complex. There's a lot of factors in play with that. Let's just say that if the U.S. went to you just taxed gross income, there was no state taxes you had to worry about.
Right. The U.S. went to a flat tax, whatever it is, they figure it out for you.
A lot, but we're not. Let's just assume that's not going to happen because I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I don't think that will ever happen. I agree with you there.
So, like 100%. Right now, we've got for technology to work, you've got to get buy-in from all these jurisdictions, over 10,000
banks,
and banks, and to be able to file a tax return just the filing part to getting it to
there's not enough money to be made for somebody to head this up to consolidate all the info to make it easy for it to do itself.
I'm just talking about the filing part, but as far as like getting the numbers on the return properly, let's just say you had all the source documents and you just basically what it would happen is you take all the source documents, you scan it, and then it populates the tax return perfectly.
Well, you're saying you added the word perfectly because that already exists.
It doesn't exist. You still have to verify it.
You still have to verify it. It's not the greatest, but yes, there is systems.
Let's just say, yeah, of course, SurePrep.
But
all the big
we should be using those systems. Okay, so that's where we can use our time to serve the client much better. Our time could be used, and this has probably been said ad nauseum, but when you're not doing all that compliance, you can now focus your time on where can the client save more money? What can we do to optimize this return? I mean, you spend much more time optimizing than doing.
So I agree with that concept. I think that a modern tax firm now, a client drops off their stuff, it gets scanned in somewhere, probably gets sent to India. So you have the person who literally they have to do a tax return because it's legally required. And they want it done as cheaply as possible. And they might not even care if it's right. They just want it done. That's not our clients. That shouldn't be any CPA firm's clients.
It shouldn't be, but the CPA firms that complain about their clients, those are the majority of their clients.
Yeah. There's also clients that care too much.
Yes.
And you can complain about those too.
The smart business owner would be paying for the relationship you have with them, the bigger picture.
I agree with everything you're saying. I want to go back to the actual processing of a tax return.
On our other podcast of tax return processing.
That's a video podcast, and it's just, you just watch me feed paper into stuff, and I wear a visor. What I don't think is good customer service is when someone drops off all their stuff, and then 2.5 weeks later, they get their tax return, and no one talks with them in between. I think a better service is someone who drops off their stuff or comes in and meets with you and they get their tax return within 1 or 2 days. From a client facing, that's something I would want. I don't want to wait three weeks for a CPA firm to do my tax return. We agree on that.
We're going to agree on that. That's fine. But you know what? H&R Block does the same thing.
Okay. Now, that's a very good point.
We're not arguing that H&R Block's bad either, but everything that H&R Block does should be automated.
So, like, there's a simplification of the tax code, which 100% needs to happen.
Yes.
For a lot of reasons. I think when you go to straight up, the tax return can be automated, you're missing a lot of value that you can add by doing the tax return. The value add is not preparing the return, but the value add of the return is taking their source documents, giving them advice on those source documents, and then telling them what they can do differently.
I'm going to keep going back to the wrong argument, though. I'm saying tax return should be a year-round process. It shouldn't be a walk-in once a year, talk to the person once a year, done. Those people should be automating it because they obviously don't care enough to be looking at this stuff all year.
I think you can do a tax return and do good planning with one meeting a year when you do the return. For some people, it depends on their complicated situation. If they're super complicated, then yes, you need to be talking with them more throughout the year.
Yeah. I still think we're talking way too broadly about accounting, because when you asked me what is my North Star for accounting, I definitely wouldn't say tax.
Well,
that's accounting and tax.
Getting to that because your firm is focused more business clients. You want to help the business clients. You're kind of have written off the individual return, the standalone individual return.
It's funny that you say I have written it off, like, because you really can't write off the cost of an individual return anymore.
Okay. For your firm, you don't want to take any more individual tax returns. And most firms are going that way. And my firm is different. We still want an individual return because we've developed a good process where we can get the tax returns in and out quickly, and we provide value.
So this is a really good segue into how our firms are different, because we're both agreeing on the same thing. You've got an operation that is working that I wouldn't say is 100% future proof. It's not, but you've proofed it enough that you're not going to be in trouble if it's fully automated. You've got these personal relationships and this communication with clients that they value it a lot more than the return being automated. I think that's what, like, we're both trying to get at.
Yeah, you have to have, exactly. You can't be
it's a relationship. Yeah,
you have to have the relationship with the client, because let's just say that all tax returns went away and you could automate it all. I think we're a long way off from that for most for the tax returns we do, the complicated returns, not the ones that are, a W-2, but ones that have K-1s, lots of investments, stuff like that. We're a long way off from those being automated. But let's just say they get automated.
Yeah.
What's going to be the role of the accountant or the CPA?
I'm not a CPA, so I have no fucking clue. But the role of the CPA needs to go beyond just those 3 letters, because that's kind of bastardized the industry too. You've got a lot of people that are passing the CPA exam because they can take a test, but they know nothing. Don't
bash CPAs.
Just CPA.
Because you're not a CPA.
No, I'm not bashing CPAs.
What's the role of the accountant when the tax return becomes automated?
Role of the accountant when the tax return becomes automated is to be somebody's friend, is to be there for them and looking out for them. And the computer's not going to be able to do that. With professional services, you want to work and trust the person that's doing it. I think that any smart or intelligent person can do their own return, but they're choosing to go to you and pay more because you're giving them value. It's not the return they're going to you for, because they could get that done a lot cheaper or anywhere else. They're going for the value that they perceive that you are giving. Now, what's your role in that?
And what's that value?
Well, that value is your website. That value for you is your office and inside of the office, because these are people that are coming in, and that's a hell of a lot nicer place to go than somebody's strip mall place that they just rented out for tax season. You know, you're going to pay a lot more to go to your office and have a return done
Do you
right in
think the
front of the
tax
CPA
returns
that's doing it.
that we do here are better than the tax returns that?
No, they're not. But what you're doing it in a better way that is perceived better. I think that a return.
You think that an H&R Block or a TurboTax, they're going to do the tax return right now?
I think that they can. I'm going to make the assumption those places doing a return correctly, and so are you. What's the value, and why would they pay you more? I think it's perception. I'm not going to go all the way to Florida to go to SeaWorld or Orlando. I'm going to go to Disney World, right? I'm not going to driving all the way down there just to go to SeaWorld.
Okay.
But worlds in Orlando. How many worlds are there in Orlando?
A lot of worlds.
Yeah. It's a small world after all, though, right?
I think what you're saying is brand is important and how you build the brand. But I don't think that, and I definitely agree with you that brand is important. So I think part of the answer to your question is the reason why you're paying a CPA more. If something were to go wrong with your tax return, let's say you got audited, you got a notice, they know we're going to take care of that. You can call up and we're going to.
Well, we charge more to make sure they have that peace of mind to take care of it. So it's a feeling that we're charging for.
Yeah,
they don't know they're going to get audited in the future. This is selling a feeling and still selling a brand.
You're selling, yes, but you're paying for access to a knowledge professional who hypothetically knows something. So if you do a computer and your computer does your tax return, you can't call up a computer and ask them a question. Now you can Google something and you can mess around.
We come in where Google leaves off. You're calling us because Google can't answer that question. Oh, it's just a quick question. You know, these are people that you don't see too often, and they call during a year with something ultra specific, but it's a quick question, and you know they already searched for it on Google. People don't value it if you're just going to give it away for free, too. If you're just going to answer all their questions or not charge extra to cover them, they're not valuing it at all, but they're valuing the return you did. So you've got other stuff that maybe you could be giving them that's increasing the value of the return, but they're not directly relating it to that.
Accountants do a terrible job of saying why they should pay you for the services. It's not just for the tax return. They're paying you for a bunch of different things.
But you shouldn't have to tell somebody why to pay you.
How are they going to know? How do you get your brand out there? You have to tell them why you're worth something. If someone goes to your website,
that's their first interaction with you, is the website, or however they found it. Their first interaction with you is going to be good or bad. They're going to go to the website, and if it's appealing to them, already you have added value. You put the website together and you have the content in there, or the simplicity of it, whatever it is, that's enough for them to want to work with you or reach out to you.
I think what we're dancing around is the accounting industry and the CPA industry. A lot of people don't understand what we do, how we provide value. They think we just do tax returns, or they think we just do bookkeeping. What they really need is the advice, the planning, getting to know you so we understand your work and we can give you better advice that way. They're not quite sure what it is. How do we differentiate ourselves from these other places? So let's just assume this person doesn't care about price.
Well, price is value. We're talking about value, so we have.
Yeah, I'm struggling with this. I spend a lot of time with new clients, potential new clients, trying to explain how we're different and our value. But I feel like everybody, you go to every CPA,
but that's what you're
doing.
Every
CPA's website, and it says we're different. We're different.
Right, I know.
And that last person.
And that's the problem. Nobody is different. And what I was saying earlier is,
but that's
every
not true.
one of these other firms.
It's definitely not true.
I tell clients this, or no, I tell potential clients this. I say every person that if you're going to talk to 3 or 4 people, I'm going to assume all of them are going to do everything 100% right. So you shouldn't question if they're going to do something right or not. You should be looking at it. Is this a long-term relationship?
Let's assume they'll do the tax return correctly. Now
I'm telling you, I'm getting at where the value is here. Okay. All the stuff correctly. Then the client is now trying to decide. You don't have to sell them on this, but they're going to decide, okay, who do I want to work with when now we're taking the compliance part that's going to be automated out of the picture. It's the same. So that's apples to apples across the board. They still need the same thing done. You've got some value in the way that you're pricing. If you're pricing different than the other firms, then that's something that's clearly different. You could be giving them the same product, but one firm tells you it's X amount per hour. Another one gives you this range of whatever the price is. And you tell them exactly how much it is and upfront before you've even started.
Okay. So yeah, the price is important and fixed price up front so they know exactly what it's going to be and they don't have to worry about getting nickel and dimed and everything's included. I 100% agree with you. There's lots of value.
But you've got people who are coming to you and you want to explain the value that you're providing. I don't think you're going to be able to explain that. How do you have a pre-written script to explain to them what's so valuable about what you do? How the fuck do you do that if everybody values different things?
You want your values to align.
What's your values as a firm?
Client service. We're going to be responsive to you.
I wanted to hear something good. That's not a value.
You're going to get response. You're going to get expertise. Somebody who has experience doing tax planning. We provide continuity. You're going to have one contact and they're going to really know you as opposed to...
What if that person gets fired?
Well, this goes back to the North Star, and you design your whole firm around how can I provide the best client service. So part of the client service is employee retention. Most firms don't do it that way. Most firms, every year, a different person could be preparing your return or doing your business return. That's not all firms do it that way.
Right. So I'm with you there, but the value that you're going to give should reflect their values too. We have our values, but when we hire, they need to be somewhat like me in a way. They need to think somewhat like me. That's not an ego thing either. My wife, she's totally the opposite of me in so many ways, but values the same things. So she's a lot like me in her values.
But the client, part of the relationship is you being able to tell them, no, you're not right.
Yes, but they respect that.
The client isn't always right.
They're totally right in anything that they say. Client comes to you and says 2 + 2 is 5.
Uh-huh.
All right. I'm going to argue that that's right. If it's the right.
Okay, please argue that.
I'm going to argue that 2 + 2 is 5 to them in whatever capacity that they just turned 2 and 2 into 5. That's right. So give them the reality of it and give them the expertise and the opinion, because just one time 2 and 2 equaled 5 to them, then it's always going to equal 5.
I have no idea what you just said.
Okay.
Because that makes no sense.
You have had an experience somewhere that is different than anybody else.
Different is not right or wrong.
Right, but it happened to you. And it didn't happen to somebody else, right?
2 + 2 isn't 5.
No, it isn't.
So if a client came to me and said that, I'd be like, no, it's not. And this is why it's not. It's my professional opinion.
You think that they'll walk out of the office thinking that 2 + 2 always equals 5? I'm saying they had a situation where 2 and 2 equaled 5. This is not the math equation. It's a situation where they are right. Here's the reality, right? So 2 + 2 equaled 5 for them. Now, that's not the math equation, but somebody told them 2 + 2 equals 5. Well, if they're the right client, they've hired you for your expertise, and you build that trust.
So what if the client said, I don't believe you, or I believe you, but I want to keep doing it my same way? What would you do?
Empathetically tell them that we can't work together, and I'd like to keep working together, but we can't.
The client's not always right, and if the client's not right, and you tell them that.
I was told 2 + 2 equals 5.
I don't think that makes any sense for anybody because you said earlier that compliance is not subjective and compliance is subjective. And one reason why I think that we're a long way off from a tax return being automated is there's a lot of subjectivity.
A lot of gray area. That's true too.
Let's just say an S Corp who doesn't pay themselves a salary. If they came to me and they said that, I'd be like, that's not right. This is why it's not right. But if you want to continue doing that, we'll allow it, but I'm gonna do a little disclosure that says we told you that you needed to pay yourself a reasonable salary and you didn't do it. So would you fire the client or not on that situation?
I would let them leave or let them stay. I wouldn't fire them.
But so if they're like,
I wouldn't give them the option to do it wrong. I would tell them 2 + 2 does equal 4. I don't, this whole time that it's been equaling 5, you've been getting a bonus 1 this whole time. You've been getting a bonus every time.
People don't understand analogies. Just to talk about this situation.
No, because you end up with 1 less. All right. If we're talking about 2,000 plus 2,000 equals 5,000,
would you let that client not pay themselves wages?
Right, I know, and they're getting $1,000 more because of it because they're not paying payroll taxes or however much more that you want.
Let them do that?
No, I'm telling them that reality, 2 + 2 does not equal 5. You need to take a salary.
Okay. And they're like, I'm not going to pay myself a salary.
I would let them stay or let them go, but you have to treat them like humans, and you can't talk down to them because they don't know.
Well, let's just say you went through all that, and they said, I understand all that. I understand it's not right, but I still don't want to pay myself a salary because I'm willing to take.
We did exactly what you just said and had a disclosure.
Like, what would you like now today?
Ideally, I would handle it that way. We put the disclosure down, and because of the way we wrote the disclosure, in some cases, the client backed up and said, you know what? You're right. I can't do this because they didn't want it sent off with that disclosure. Other ones could give a shit.
Yeah. And I think that karma always comes back to these people who don't do it the right way. Because if we look at this year and the PPP, you had to pay yourself wages to get the PPP. Yeah. And if you didn't do that, you didn't get the PPP. So these S-corps who never paid themselves wages lost out on money from the government because they didn't listen to you.
I've always believed in karma, but I feel like it's a self-inflicted thing because shit does come back around somehow, whether you want to tie it to one thing or another. Now, there's a Jewish tradition that I'll bring up.
Okay,
I'm all over the place.
We're going to get better. By episode 70, you're going to be able to you're like my wife. She'll just start talking, and you have no idea what they're talking about because they're bouncing around so much and they don't explain the situation. The biggest concern of most accounting firms is their team. They either complain that they can't find the right talent, that they can't train the right talent, and they come up with all these different metrics and different things to measure people. And I personally think it's all bullshit. I think
it's all bullshit too.
I think you can tell.
I agree with all of that. But the most important conversation I had today was a client who actually called to try and get a fee reduction, and now he's paying more. He wanted to know how we have a firm with this many people that are actually good. He does investments, professional services. He hired somebody. The guy's a CFP. He's one of those that could pass the CPA exam, but doesn't have a fucking clue what's going on. And we're talking about hiring. It had nothing to do with the CFP, financial services, or anything else. His first hire needs to be somebody that complements him. If you're going to start a firm and from the beginning get it right, you have to have a second in command that complements you. So it's almost like we've got 2 people to balance different types of personalities. Personalities can be different, values can be the same, but personalities get in the way of values, I think. In a situation of knowledge workers is a whole bunch of really smart people, and the ones who care about people you cultivate to be better employees, better people, better advisors, better anything. You got to show them that you care too, and some vulnerability. So that a lot of that's leadership. So it's a combination of things. I don't think there's a right answer for it, but I think the hardest part is your people when you're trying to run a firm.
I think the hardest part is you, a owner, person running the firm. If your firm's not running well, you're the problem. It's not, the team's not the problem.
So when I said that every client you have and every employee you have should be a reflection of you, that way you can own every fuck up. You can own all of it because it's all people that you had to say. And that's why I'm saying that too, because I want to own a problem. I want to be the one who's responsible, who fucked up, whatever happens within the firm.
No, see, I don't agree with that. You've done a very good job of this. Like the firm should run without the owner. Ideally, when you scale to a certain extent, you've done that. Like I haven't done that yet. Your firm runs.
Well, you say you haven't done that, but your dad, can he step away and everything will still run?
Yeah.
Okay, so then you have done that.
But I want to be the person who I could step away and it still runs.
Right. So then you have to cultivate the next one because your dad's not going to just take your role.
But it's not.
You guys aren't going to just switch roles.
It's not just the next one. It's cultivating your firm.
That's true. Yeah.
So that it will run on its own, and that's very complicated and it's hard to do. The firm is a reflection of you, of the owner, but as you scale, it has to be from the owner, and that owner has to be the firm culture. So it has to transfer from the owner to the firm, and the firm has to be that reflection.
The owner has to have a really solid, anti-fragile vision for the company and core.
You're all about acronyms and core and iPad and whatever else.
iPad.
It's like a bunch of.
No, I made these up. This is our internal. The part about that is inside my firm.
Like you're saying a bunch of like you have your team every week do this and do that and do this and like for me that takes time away from servicing the client, and servicing the client is
but that's because you're servicing the client, or you're talking about your team too.
I'm talking about the team. Like I don't want my team spending 3 minutes filling out some survey.
Okay. I don't want that. So I'd argue that, and both sides could be right on this one.
This will probably be our last argument, and then we'll continue on the next episode.
Well, yes, to be continued. I think that what you're talking about is trying to squeeze more time into the pasta maker and expect more pasta to come out. You're trying to feed more of it into there to get more out on the other side, if they're not spending time doing things that are of value to the firm.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I want them to spend stuff on a value. I don't want them to spend time on any bullshit corporate speak. I want them spending time with their families. I want them spending time on their clients. I want them spending time on their career, whether that means taking education, or I want them spending time on that.
All of this fuzzy stuff, the corporate, I don't think it's corporate at all, but I see where you can take it that way. And maybe it is. And maybe I don't know corporate.
Well, what you're trying to...
Ignorance is bliss, though, because I don't know how a lot of these corporations run.
What we're trying to do at the end of the day, I think, is create our firm culture so that people want to work here, that they would like the clients they work on. And the way you're doing that is by creating these different values, and we're doing the same thing. We're creating values in our firm.
But you can't create a value. A value is something that's inherently you. So you have...
So then why do you have these acronyms?
Those acronyms, so somebody should already fit into that acronym before they're hired.
Why do you need them?
You don't need them.
So that's my point. So why do you have them?
But you don't need them, but you do need them. Sorry. No, you don't need them, but you do need them.
But do you have to spend...
If you're gonna have a solid...
Integrity is super important, but do you have to have integrity on the wall so people know it's important?
Well, we don't have a wall. But an email that goes out once a week. All right, spending 3 minutes on that. Okay, that's to that point here. Do you have company parties?
I mean, we have a once a year party for our clients.
Okay, you got for your clients?
Yeah.
Oh, damn it! You answered that the complete wrong way. I was expecting to say we have a company party.
And I'm talking. I worked at...
I know. I was just trying to make...
I worked at a large accounting firm, and every time KPMG had all these... They had 7 pillars of integrity and all this bullshit. And it was all... And they had everything written down. Like, it was amazing. But nobody followed any of that. And
right.
It was all fucking bullshit.
So this is why...
and that's why I hated it.
I know. But this is also why... I know what they're doing, but I'll guarantee you that management was not actually living it.
Yeah,
And
of course not. Because if they were, then like it would have trickled down. I agree with that.
so
But
I
this is
feel
my
like
this
our
is,
management, it doesn't matter if I don't think we need to have these email things. I don't think we need to have all that because we
but
are
why do you
living
do it
those
then?
values.
Why
I
do you do
think that it is also human nature to be recognized for things and to also, and it feels good for somebody to recognize, even though
I
this
agree
part
with
of
that.
who you are,
I
when
agree
somebody
with that.
tells you something like that you don't know about yourself or you didn't know you did something that
But
impacted
do you
somebody.
need to get an email from somebody to know to recognize them?
I'm not saying you need any of this shit. I do it because I have a fear of, I have a very unhealthy fear of complacency.
Okay. That's a good. I
So
think that's a good fear.
I'm always trying to change things and always trying to do stuff different. There needs to be some
Are you trying to
consistency.
do it different to be different, or are you trying to make stuff better?
I'm trying to make something better, but
Okay.
in order to maintain some kind of consistency while everything else might seem surfacely changing, is we still have to have that foundation. And I feel like that's our foundation. That's something that we stuck the landing on. And ever since we've done that, we've been able to suss people out. And I don't know what it is about it. Maybe it's everything else that we're doing. Maybe it's not that. Maybe it is that. I don't know, but because it's working, I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going to fuck with it at all.
When people go into accounting or tax, they go into it for what reasons?
To make money.
No. If
No,
someone
that's not the
says
right
that,
answer. But that's what they will tell you. I've asked everybody this.
well,
And
if someone said that, I would not hire them.
oh no. Like, I don't. That's always going to be the first answer for most people. And that's
Not my team. I
okay
don't think
on
that's
your team. My team is realistic. Like what I said to them the
now
other day.
everyone wants to make more money, but they want to be
It's
rewarded.
about money until it's not.
Okay, but
It's about money until it's
it,
not. So once
but
they're getting
you do not
paid
go into
enough,
accounting.
once they're getting paid
I'm,
enough, they're looking
now,
for fulfillment.
now maybe I'm not being naive, which I could be, but you go into accounting because you want to help people. You want to help them do tax returns. You want to help them solve a business problem.
You're being naive because you go into health because you want to help people. You go into
but
you
you
go
help
into
people financially.
waste management because you want to
This
help
is why
people.
it's going back to the why, and why I think that if that is the true why to make money of your firm, you're not going to succeed. And your corporate culture, if that's what you're about, is you. I mean,
So we're in agreement 100%, but the argument here is
you just
business
said people
owner.
go to accounting to make money. I don't agree with that.
I didn't say that was the why.
This is my point of why our team, of how you cultivate a team so money doesn't matter, is, and all this other bullshit doesn't matter, because they went into accounting hypothetically to help people with their business problems and their tax problems and
Now,
solve.
how do you like I'm with you there.
And
How do you get to that? Because if you're going to ask somebody that in an interview, of course they're going to say that. They're not going to say that they got into this for money.
First of all, you're not always going to make the right hire. So let's just say that you don't make the right hire and you find out this person is not in there for the right reasons. They need to go. And people don't fire people that don't fit their culture. So let's just say, so that's just a side point. But let's just, how do you get to an interview? It's hard. I don't know if you can ask them like why you went into accounting, and you can tell if they're bullshitting or not. You can make more money if you want to go in it for money. Go into finance, like be an investor, make way more money. The fundamental premise that you have, and I think you need to reevaluate.
Dude, none of this is about money.
I think you need to reevaluate what your team values. Your team, and this is why, and I spent a lot of time thinking about this. It's like taking away all the bullshit that most firms do. Dress code, stupid surveys, parties, whatever. If you know what I love? The best thing I love to hear is when two team members are like, we're going to get dinner together, or like we put a group together and we're going. Not me. I don't want to be involved. I want them doing it on their own. That's the best thing I can hear. Normally I pay for it. I'll be like, oh yeah, here, take the credit card. Because like,
Oh shit.
nice.
So my team did that last week and I didn't pay for it. I
But
should have.
but
They
like
did.
because you do like I don't believe in you don't need friends at work. You're spending a bunch of time in your accounting firm. If you build the culture where you're like and it goes back to the client is the most important thing. Your work is the most important thing. You making your client happy and doing the right stuff is the most important thing. Everything else doesn't matter. Like when you work doesn't matter. What you wear doesn't matter. The stuff that you put on the wall about all this bullshit.
Okay. Let's strip all of that down.
The bald eagle saying persevere.
Okay.
Like all this.
No, I like your point of them doing stuff on their own. But what if that's already happening? You know, when I brought up my people said they did it for money. This is like we did this recently, and it was just an exercise
so you think, so let's just say you got rid of all this stuff, and you were just like, hey, like we're not gonna worry about team parties and team all this stuff. Like, you know, we'll do like we'll still like have happy hours and stuff we want, but like we're not gonna worry about our core that like we're not gonna worry about these emails that we do all the time. We're not gonna worry about team meetings.
Okay, so here's the issue though. I wouldn't scrap all that shit.
So it's about you.
Yes.
So you feel like you're losing control.
Putting words in my mouth there. Not about losing control, because I wouldn't choose to remove all that stuff. And if somebody else chose to remove it.
I think all this stuff is good. You're doing the right stuff and you live it, so it's working.
Or it's not working and I'm just fooling myself. What you could be saying is none of my shit's working and it would work even if I didn't do it. That's what you could be saying.
Well, I think it would, because you set up the firm in a way that it will work without you having to now. And there is times when you have to be like, hey, we're not going to do this because that's not the right thing to do. And you set examples like that. But I don't think you need a core value list written down in your handbook to live your firm that way.
That's true. That's
and
not
this is
true.
It's a
philosophy. It's true. It's not true. It needs to be clear. When you're clear about this vision and why you're doing what you're doing and what your core is and all these other terms, when you're clear about that, you get a lot more alignment, and then decisions that people made are less about the immediate filter and more about the long-term filter of how it's going to impact the company and the client.
Okay.
None of it's about money, but it is. It's about money until it's not. And the other part too, about value.
I've never had a client leave or a team member leave because of money.
No, and maybe not. When I say it's about money until it's not.
So we're talking about accountants. We're not talking about people working at McDonald's.
Well, I understand that. So accountants shouldn't be like that unless they're probably working at H&R Block.
A lot of firms make this mistake, I think, which is they treat their team members like McDonald's workers. Like I have to monitor them all the time. I have to know every 6 minutes what they're doing. They have to come in the office or they're not.
Oh, dude, do you know what I just saw? A guy on a call showed us a monitor and a mirror behind him. And I was just like, you got to be careful there because we can see everything that's going on. And he turns his camera around and he's got 3 TVs and they have all of the employees that are working at home. He was trying to say how great that was and how much more productive they are. The long term, fuck that.
If you treat them like McDonald's workers, then they're going to act like McDonald's.
They may be 20% more productive because they've got a camera on them, but they're also going to look for a job when they walk out of that room.
Yeah, and the bad people stay.
And you lose the good people because you're telling them you don't trust them.
Exactly.